Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever it is that you tune in to watch this video. Guys, I just wanted to take a young moment to sort of explain a little bit about the class that I posted yesterday. So the class is really called How to Ace the Professional Review Interview. And really what you saw there is I shared what we'll be covering in the class. So that is fine. What I want to really talk about right now is the 3 types of interviews that you can get at EXA, because a lot of candidates, when they do get a letter that says they must come for an interview, they really don't have a good understanding of which interview are they going for. And really, there's 3 core interviews, okay, 2 of them being part of the normal process, and the third one really being an interview that you should never get to if you have passed via my master classes. And really the reason I did this class is because I've observed a trend, an unfortunate trend, where a lot of candidates, sometimes not a lot, some, but a number that is relatively higher than desired, that pass the experience appraisal stage, and then when they get to the professional review stage, they actually fail. And it is unfortunate because as per the new registration system, which is NRS, once you get to the professional review stage, it's either you pass or fail. So it's a little bit different to the legacy system. So really, before I share a screen to just show you guys just the process, I'm not going to explain the process, just to show you the registration process. And I just want to talk about the differences between the new registration system and the legacy system. What used to happen in the legacy system is that you would submit your application, it would get reviewed. Definitely at that point, you can still deem them an assessor. It would get reviewed, and then there would be a recommendation made. It would be either the report is adequate, it meets all the requirements in terms of the outcomes that were required at the time. At the time, it wasn't called outcomes. I just don't recall what it was actually called, because outcomes is a term that is linked to the new registration system. So in the legacy system, if you came for an interview, what used to happen at the professional review is if there was missing information, it could be probed at the interview, right? That's the first point. The second point is that if you didn't pass the professional review, you could be sent back into industry to go gather more experience with regards to whatever was found lacking. That was the legacy system. In the new registration system, there are 2 key processes. At this point, it might be wise for me to share my screen. In the new registration system, there are really 2 key processes, and what those are is the experience appraisal. Okay, so I cannot share my screen, unfortunately, so it's fine. So in the new registration system, what is happening is that there is the experience appraisal, that's stage 1, then there's the professional review, which is stage 2. So as part of the experience appraisal, what is supposed to happen is that if there is missing information in terms of the 11 outcomes, what EXA does is they will, okay, let's take examples. In a scenario where what is missing is not core, it is maybe something soft, like a soft aspects. Let's take something maybe that is not clear on maybe your understanding of contracts, or something that is not clear in terms of your level of responsibility. Really what EXA will ask you to do as part of the experience appraisal stage is to submit something additional in writing to top up, or to subsidize your initial submission, which is fine, because when you do submit that document and the assessor reads it and it is found to be adequate, they will make a decision, and ideally the decision is for you to pass the EA and go to PR, right? That's one iteration. The second iteration is if what is missing is core, more specifically in terms of problem definition, or things like application of sound engineering judgment. For example, you might have written on a project. This project does appear to be complex, but perhaps you did not spend too much time explaining on your exact contribution, right? In terms of what did you do to investigate, analyze in order to define and provide a solution to the engineering problem. What EXA will do is they will call you for an experience appraisal interview. The experience appraisal interviews, ladies and gentlemen, is something that is going to tell you exactly what is missing in terms of the outcomes. And when you come to that interview, the assessor's job is to probe the missing outcomes. Please, let's understand that. So when you get the letter, please read it and see if it says EA or PR interview. It is very important, because if it says EA, you have to prepare additional evidence for the missing outcomes. So as an example, they could have said outcome 1, 2, 3, 8, and 9. So it is going to be an interview where the objective is to solicit additional information for the missing outcomes. Then obviously, you come to this interview, they ask you questions, you adequately respond to whatever is missing. Then the ideal scenario is you pass and you go to the professional review stage. So really, the masterclass on interviews that is coming up on 30 October is really focused on the professional review interview. At this interview, ladies and gentlemen, you have to present evidence against all the 11 outcomes. Let us be clear. So an experience appraisal stage is assessment of written evidence against the 11 outcomes. The professional review stage is what? Verbal assessment of the 11 outcomes. So we are understanding that at the professional review, what the reviewers are doing is they verify or they confirm that the information that is written on paper is indeed your work, and really they probe engineering judgment, and some of the people are happening to unfortunately fail at this stage. So in other words, they've written the application well, but when they come to the professional review, they fail to demonstrate competence. You have to demonstrate competence, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't mean just because you pass the experience appraisal stage, PR is given. But what I do want to say is that definitely the engineering report that is submitted for the EA, if you do pass the EA, it obviously tells you that the content of that engineering report is adequate. And really what you need to do at the professional review is prepare a presentation that covers all the 11 outcomes. That needs to be presented within 15 minutes. So in this class, really, we are going to do that. There's a number of ways that you can approach this presentation. There is no fixed template that EXA offers for compiling this presentation, really. So it is one of those where you are at liberty to present it how you see fit. The key thing is that it should be within 15 minutes. So in this class, really my wish is to empower all of you guys on how to prepare these things, to prepare the professional review interview. And like I said, we will look at a case study for an engineer, a professional engineer and a professional technologist. And obviously this will give you a good guide on really what it is that you should be putting in there, because 15 minutes is not a long time. What I need to then I also stress is that if you do go beyond the 15 minutes, it's already a red flag in terms of passing. So really, I just wanted to take this young moment to explain the differences between the two, because really that class is going to be focused on the professional review. Once you pass the EA, there is no reason why you should be failing the professional review. So we're going to also do dry runs. Obviously, another thing that is to be understood about the professional review, we all get different reviewers. So obviously there aren't fixed questions that will be asked to you, but this class will bring to your attention core questions that if you address or prepare for, you should be able to answer any question that the reviewers will ask, and yeah, so guys, just take the time to empower yourself. I promise you it is painful to pass the experience appraisal and then fail at the professional review. Then obviously I wanted to explain that as per the new registration system, if you do get to the professional review, there are only two results that can happen at that point. It's either you get registered or you don't get registered, unfortunately. Unlike the legacy where you get an opportunity to go back into industry, in the new registration model, the only time you are afforded an opportunity to go back is during the experience appraisal. Once you get to the professional review, it's either you pass or fail. So in other words, it's either you successfully demonstrated competence or you failed to do so. Then I just want to mention the last type of interview that does happen at EXA. And this only happens in a case where you failed the professional review, so your application gets refused. And what they do offer is what they call an advisory interview. Also, it's crucial for me to mention, if you do take the advisory interview, it immediately implies to EXA that you are somebody who is going to go back and fix your mistakes. You're going to see what is missing. You're going to try and gather experience to address the missing outcomes. So that is in a case when you accept the advisory interview. If you feel the outcome is not fair for whatever reason, and you plan to appeal, you do not take that advisory interview. So it's very important for us to just have that understanding. So really, as you can see, this class is focused on the core interview, the one that says you become professional or not professional. And really, fortunately, some of the candidates have taken time to get advice before going for the interview. And normally, they pass, because we do a dry run. A dry run is preempting all the glitches that are going to jack up your nerves, because once you make a minor mistake, obviously it's going to sort of trigger or make the nerves get even worse. So really with the dry run, it is nice because you get to practice, you get to ensure it's within 15 minutes, you get to improve, because as part of the dry run, it is also recorded. I do also record it for you to see yourself and identify areas that you might wish to improve. So I really, thought I should probably do this class because I don't want to see people failing over something that can be easily mitigated. Or I think also the other problem is some of the candidates pass the EA and they take the PR so lightly. They don't prepare enough for it. They don't practice to see if it's within 15 minutes and those type of things. It's a problem. And obviously, the last point I want to mention in this recording is obviously how you select the content that you put in the presentation is very critical. It's very critical because you only have 15 minutes to demonstrate competence. So the way you choose this evidence, you have to be smart. And in this class, I really want to show you guys like a smart way of preparing it, a smart way of choosing the ideal experience, and obviously also how to write it, because there are like really preferred ways to prepare a presentation and present it to the reviewers that is appealing. And there are other ways that sort of when you would follow those methodologies, it sort of gives the listener an idea that you are not, the work is not yours, or you didn't prepare, you are maybe taking chances. So really in this class, we want to share tips that are gonna make you work smart and not hard. Hard work doesn't always pay, guys, because you can redo the thing 10 times and you end up driving yourself crazy. So really, if you are somebody who has already submitted and you are still waiting for feedback on the experience appraisal, you should really attend this class. Why? To prepare for for the professional review before you get that letter from that invitation from EXA. And the only reason I advise that is because EXA normally is going to let you know of the review typically between 7 and 3 days. You know, they're going to send you the invitation to say you have to come for a professional review. So obviously we are all employed, we are all working. 3 days is not enough to really prepare. So it is better, it is good practice to try and prepare for this thing using the engineering report that you've submitted. So yeah, I mean, really, some of the people really have attended the masterclass. They are very clear on what needs to be done. And I really am proud of those people who have made the time to clarify and be 100% certain of what is required. But if you are somebody who coincidentally didn't learn of me earlier in your journey to registration, do make the time to come, join us, empower yourself. There's no need to do this thing twice. It is really something that is traumatic to repeat. With that being said, I want to say good morning, good afternoon, good night. Whenever it is that you tune in to watch this video, I hope it sort of gave some clarity on the class, how to ace the professional review interview, which is really the core stage of registration. I'm out.